From the studios of ITN, the news and sport, with Katie Derham and Graham Miller.
Good evening, the headlines. Another Briton kidnapped in the Yemen. The Foreign Office urges caution.
And in sport, Ulster make rugby history as they storm into the European Cup final.
A British oil worker...
Holly Lewis on Meridian News in half an hour. Armed police surround a house after officers are threatened with a knife. Join us after ITN.
From ITN, News at 10 with Trevor McDonald.
Sea Empress oil pollution earns port a record fine. Another message tonight for the runaway foster family. CJD now operations could be at risk. A crazy welcome for John Hartson at Wimbledon. And why these paintings may be on show day and night. Good evening. The Milford Haven Port Authority in Wales was ordered to pay a fine of £4 million today for the Sea Empress oil spill in 1996. It's the biggest ever penalty for pollution in this country. The judge said he'd have fined the rich oil or manufacturing company even more. The Port Authority, which had pleaded guilty, was accused of putting an inadequately trained pilot on the Sea Empress. It hit the rocks with devastating consequences for the environment. Our Wales correspondent Tim Rogers reports.
When the sea...
Thousands of items used to make weapons are uncovered. Join us after ITN.
From ITN, News at 10 with Trevor McDonald.
Monitors look on as Serbian atrocities continue. Foster parents are told the girls can stay with you. The nanny who admits killing the baby in her care. Rugby in shock, England are kicked out of the Five Nations. And Merson returns with a goal to lift Villa. Good evening. Serb forces in Kosovo, already widely condemned as war criminals, kept up their attack today on the province's Albanian majority. They poured gunfire onto 4 villages, including the one where at least 40 Albanians were massacred at the weekend, all under the eyes of an impotent international force of ceasefire monitors. Today, the head of that observer mission, William Walker, was given 48 hours to leave Yugoslavia for pinning the blame for the massacre on the Serbs. The slaughter took place in the Kosovo village of Račak, 18 miles from the provincial capital, Pristina. ITN's Bill Neely was there on Saturday as families found and counted their dead, and reports now from there again.
Serbian forces on a hilltop, pounding the villages below for a 4th day. Standing just 200 yards away and watching where the shells land, the international monitors, powerless to stop the assault. Their only weapons are binoculars and maps. They have no authority to intervene.
It seems to be part of an ongoing operation. It just seems to be that this is a plan to systematically go from one village to another.
Hundreds of troops have ringed at least 4 villages and are using mortars, tanks and machine guns. It's not known who they are attacking. But once again, the village of Račak, scene of the massacre of ethnic Albanians, is under fire. During a lull and in an armoured vehicle, we went back. This is the centre of the village of Račak. The shooting and shelling is still going on. Behind me is the mosque where the bodies of the 40 villagers killed by the Serb police still lie. There is simply no one left in this village to bury them. These men are targets of the Serbs, rebels who want to free Kosovo from Serb rule. They took me to see where Račak's population now lives. The villagers have been on this frozen hillside for days now, with little to protect them against the biting cold. This man lost his son in the massacre, this woman her brother. They are afraid they will be next. There are at least 2,500 people scattered in small groups across these woods. These people haven't eaten for 2 days, but they're too terrified to move from here. The Serbs are openly defiant in their use of force against ethnic Albanians, breaking again today the ceasefire they agreed to. Late this afternoon, we went back into Ratchak to discover the mosque empty. The Serbs have taken away the bodies of those they had killed for an investigation.
We had verifiers on the ground, and we asked if we could go in with their investigation team. And the judge, in this case, flatly refused.
He's just over the crest of that hill, about 200 meters.
But they got snipers up there?
So the monitors watch and wait for the next attack. Their leader now ordered out of Kosovo by the Serbs. And the defenseless watch and wait. They cannot leave. They are trapped. Bill Neely, News at 10, Ratchak, Kosovo.
Not only did the Yugoslav authorities order the head of the observer mission out today, they refused to let the United Nations war crime prosecutor Louise Arbour in to investigate the Ratchak massacre. She was turned back at the Macedonian border. Here's our diplomatic editor, Robert Moore.
The sudden upsurge in fighting and the atrocity committed in Ratchak is powerful evidence that the ceasefire agreed just 3 months ago is now rapidly unraveling. Further evidence that Belgrade is defying the peace deal came this afternoon, when the UN war crimes investigator Louise Arbour was barred by Serb border police from entering Kosovo, preventing her from investigating the massacre. And in a further snub to the international community, Belgrade has ordered the expulsion of William Walker, the head of the international monitors in the ravaged province. In the House of Commons, the Foreign Secretary Robin Cook spoke of Britain's outrage at what he called the relentless cycle of ethnic atrocity.
It is simply not credible that those who were killed were the casualties of a military conflict. The eyewitness accounts of international observers make it only too clear that they were murdered. In any common sense understanding of the term, this was a war crime.
It was a crime that sent shudders through Western capitals, not just because of its brutality, but also because the diplomats have no strategy in place to stop this conflict reigniting. So we may now be witnessing the final collapse of a ceasefire that was always fragile and deeply flawed. The Kosovo crisis has been simmering for a decade, when Serb leader Slobodan Milosevic imposed direct rule, stripping the province of its autonomy. The guerrillas of the Kosovo Liberation Army began their fight for independence, but the West says achieving that and redrawing the borders of the Balkans could trigger a wider war. Last year, the Serbs launched an offensive, crushing the separatists, before NATO threatened air attacks, and a ceasefire was agreed in October. But that now appears to have been no more than a winter break, allowing both sides to regroup. On the ground in the last few months, the KLA has regained territory, such as at Malachevo, in areas where the Serbs have withdrawn. But now those Serb forces are again launching attacks around Kosovskaya Mitrovica and Podujevo, and they appeared poised for a spring offensive. And as feared, the 850 unarmed monitors based in the provincial capital Pristina are now powerless, mere witnesses to the fighting. With the policy options so limited, there is talk again of airstrikes on Serb targets, and NATO air power remains available. But it is the option of last resort and remains deeply problematic. It would shatter hopes of a diplomatic solution, and if it helped the KLA gain independence, might simply add to the instability of the region and require Western intervention on the ground. Robert Moore, News at 10.